There are 7 everyday behaviors that millions of people do without thinking. Things that look completely normal on the surface. Things that your friends do. Things that your partner does. Things that you might be doing right now without even realizing it. But hidden inside each one of them is a quiet signal, a red flag that most people would never notice. And by the end of this, you are going to see human behavior in a completely different way. You are going to look at the people around you and wonder how you missed it for so long. Because here is the thing about mental illness that nobody talks about. It does not always look like what you think it looks like. It does not always show up as someone crying in a dark room. It does not always announce itself with obvious breakdowns or dramatic moments. Sometimes it shows up wearing a smile. Sometimes it shows up disguised as ambition. Sometimes it hides behind the very traits we admire most in people. And that is what makes it so dangerous. Not because it is loud, but because it is silent. And silence, when it comes to the human mind, is where the real damage happens. Let me start with something that might surprise you. The most put-together person you know. The one who always has a plan. The one who never misses a deadline. The one who seems like they have figured out the whole game of life. That person might be the one struggling the most. And the reason is something that psychology has been whispering about for years, but most people still do not want to hear. See, we have been trained since we were kids to believe that productivity equals health. That if you are busy, you are winning. That the person who wakes up at 5 in the morning, hits the gym, answers every email, and still has time to meal prep on Sunday night is the gold standard of mental wellness. But what if that is not strength at all? What if that non-stop drive to stay busy is actually a defense mechanism? A wall built so high and so thick that the person behind it does not even remember what they are hiding from anymore. This is the first hidden sign. Extreme productivity that never stops. And it might be the most dangerous one on this list because nobody questions it. Nobody pulls that person aside and says, "Hey, are you okay?" Instead, we applaud them. We put them on a pedestal. We share their morning routines on social media and tell everyone else to be more like them. But behind that perfectly organized calendar is often a mind that cannot afford to sit still. Because the moment the noise stops, the thoughts rush in. The feelings they have been outrunning finally catch up. And that silence becomes the scariest place in the world. Consider a composite profile based on patterns therapists see over and over again. A person in their early 30s, high achiever, great career, respected by everyone around them, but they have not taken a single day off in 2 years. Not because they cannot, but because they are terrified of what happens when they do. The last time they had a free afternoon with nothing planned, they felt a wave of sadness so heavy it scared them. So they filled every gap, every minute, every second. They turned their life into a machine because machines do not feel. Machines just produce. And that is exactly the trick. Productivity becomes the mask. It becomes the armor. It becomes the thing that lets someone walk through life looking like they have it all together, while quietly falling apart underneath. And the worst part, society rewards it. Your boss loves it. Your family brags about it. Your social media followers admire it. So the cycle never breaks. The person keeps running, keeps producing, keeps filling every moment with tasks and goals and achievements. And every single one of those achievements is another brick in the wall between them and the feelings they cannot face. Here is the part that really gets me. These are often the people who seem the least likely to need help. They are the ones giving advice. They are the ones others look up to. And because they are so good at performing wellness, nobody ever thinks to check on them. The irony is painful when you sit with it long enough. Now here is where it gets even more interesting, because that same need to stay busy, that same fear of stillness, it connects directly to the second hidden sign. And this one hides in plain sight even better than the first. Overthinking disguised as being careful. We all know someone who takes forever to make a decision. Someone who weighs every option from every angle. Someone who reads the menu 6 times before ordering. And we usually just laugh it off. We say, oh, they are just thorough. They are just cautious. But when that kind of thinking never turns off, when every tiny choice feels like it carries the weight of the world, something deeper is going on. Extreme indecision is not about being careful. It is about being afraid. Afraid of making the wrong choice. Afraid of what might happen if you commit to one path, and it turns out to be a mistake. Afraid that one bad decision will confirm the thing they secretly believe about themselves, that they are not smart enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough to trust their own judgment. And that fear does not come from nowhere. It often grows from a place of deep anxiety that has been building for years, sometimes since childhood. A place where the person learned early on that mistakes lead to consequences, that wrong choices lead to punishment or shame or the withdrawal of love. So they freeze, they analyze, they replay every possible outcome in their heads 100 times. And from the outside, it just looks like someone who is a little indecisive, maybe a little quirky, but from the inside, it feels like being trapped in a prison made entirely of what-ifs. A prison with no walls you can see, but no door you can find either. And this connects to something even bigger. Because when you are stuck in that loop of overthinking, something else starts to happen. You start to pull away from people. Not in an obvious way. Not in a way that anyone would notice right away, but slowly, quietly, like a tide going out. And that brings us to the third, hidden sign. Social withdrawal disguised as being an introvert. Now let me be very clear here. Being an introvert is completely real and completely healthy. Some people genuinely recharge by spending time alone. That is not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is something different. It is when someone who used to be social starts pulling back, when they stop accepting invitations, when they start canceling plans at the last minute, when they begin choosing isolation not because they love their own company, but because being around other people has started to feel like too much work. This is one of the sneakiest signs on this list, because our culture actually celebrates it now. We live in a world that romanticizes alone time, that posts quotes about cutting people off and protecting your energy, that treats solitude like a personality trait, instead of recognizing that sometimes it is a symptom. And while boundaries are absolutely important, and while healthy solitude is a real and beautiful thing, there is a thin line between choosing to be alone and hiding from the world, because you are afraid of being seen. When a person starts pulling away, it is often because they feel like a burden. They feel like they are too much, or not enough. They worry that if people really knew what was going on inside their head, they would leave anyway. So they leave first. They build a wall and call it peace. They call it self-care. They call it growth. But deep down, it is just fear wearing a prettier name. A narrative illustration based on observed patterns would look something like this. Someone who used to be the life of every gathering, the one who organized dinners and planned weekends. But over the past year, they have slowly disappeared. They still text back. They still seem fine online. But in person, they are a ghost. And when you ask them how they are doing, they always say the same thing. I am good, just busy. But they are not busy. They are drowning, quietly and completely drowning. They have just gotten so good at treading water that nobody around them can tell the difference. And that performance, that ability to seem fine while everything inside is falling apart, that leads us directly to the fourth sign. And honestly, this might be the one that hits the hardest. Using humor as a shield. Think about the funniest person you know, the one who always has a joke ready, the one who makes everyone laugh even in the most serious moments, the one who can turn any awkward silence into a comedy show. Now ask yourself this: have you ever seen that person be vulnerable? Have you ever seen them cry? Have you ever heard them talk about something painful without immediately turning it into a punchline? There is a reason some of the greatest comedians in history have also been some of the most troubled. Humor is one of the most sophisticated defense mechanisms the human mind can create. It takes pain and repackages it into something that gets applause instead of pity. It takes the darkest moments of a person's life and wraps them in a punchline so clever that nobody stops to wonder where the joke actually came from. It lets someone stand in front of a room full of people, talk about their deepest wounds, and walk away feeling powerful instead of exposed. But the problem is that the wound is still there. The laugh does not heal it. It just covers it up with noise. And every time that joke lands, every time the room erupts, it reinforces the idea that this is the only version of themselves that people want to see. The funny one, the light one, never the hurting one, and the people around them never question it. Because who would? Who looks at someone who is always smiling, always joking, always lighting up the room and thinks something might be wrong? We are wired to associate laughter with happiness. So when someone is always laughing, we assume they must be the happiest person in the room, but sometimes they are the loneliest. Sometimes the jokes are not coming from a place of joy. They are coming from a place of survival. And when humor stops being enough, when the jokes can no longer outrun the pain, when the audience goes home and the lights go out and the laughter fades into silence, something else takes over. A behavior so subtle that even the person doing it might not realize what is happening. It creeps in slowly, like a habit you never chose, but somehow cannot shake. And that is the fifth hidden sign: constant apologizing. You know the type. Someone who says sorry for everything. Sorry for taking up space. Sorry for having an opinion. Sorry for asking a question. Sorry for existing in a way that might mildly inconvenience another human being. They apologize when they walk into a room. They apologize when they speak up in a meeting. And most people just see it as politeness. They think, oh, that person is just really considerate. They are just naturally being nice. But when someone apologizes for things that do not require an apology, it is rarely about manners. It is about a deep-rooted belief that they are fundamentally in the way, that their needs do not matter, that they are somehow always doing something wrong just by being themselves. This pattern often traces back to environments where a person was made to feel like their emotions were a problem, where expressing a need was met with frustration or rejection or cold silence, where being too loud or too needy or too anything was punished in ways that left invisible scars. Over time, the brain learns to preemptively apologize as a way of shrinking itself, making itself smaller, less noticeable, less of a target, and it works in the short term. People do not get annoyed with you if you are always saying sorry, but in the long term, it hollows a person out. It teaches them that they do not deserve to take up space in the world, that their voice is an inconvenience, that their presence is something that needs to be excused rather than welcomed. And that belief, once it takes root, is incredibly hard to pull out, because it does not feel like a belief. It feels like a fact. It feels like the truth. And that is what makes it so devastating. That brings us to the sixth sign. And this one is going to challenge something a lot of people believe about themselves, something they might even be proud of. Toxic positivity disguised as optimism. We all know someone who refuses to acknowledge anything negative. Everything is fine. Everything happens for a reason. Good vibes only. And on the surface, that looks like resilience. It looks like strength. It looks like someone who has mastered the art of staying positive no matter what life throws at them. But there is a big difference between genuine optimism and forced positivity that exists only to avoid pain. When someone cannot allow themselves to feel sad, angry, or frustrated, it is not because they are strong. It is because they are afraid. Afraid that if they open the door to one negative emotion, they will all come flooding in, and they will never be able to close it again. So they keep smiling. They keep saying it is all good. They keep performing happiness like a one-person show that never ends and never gets an intermission. And the audience loves it, because nobody wants to be around someone who is struggling. We want the person who lifts us up, the one who always sees the bright side, the one who makes us feel like everything is going to be okay. But what we do not see is the cost of that performance, the exhaustion that settles into their bones, the loneliness that grows louder every night, the quiet moments at 3 a.m. when the mask finally comes off and they do not recognize the face underneath. That is the price of toxic positivity, and the person paying it is always paying alone. A composite example, based on observed, patterns might look like this. Someone who just went through something genuinely painful, maybe a painful loss, maybe a bad breakup, maybe a career setback, and instead of grieving, they immediately pivot to gratitude. They post online about how thankful they are for the lesson. They tell their friends they are doing amazing. They throw themselves into self-improvement mode like nothing happened, and everyone around them is impressed. Look how strong they are. Look how well they are handling it. But they are not handling it. They are burying it. And buried emotions do not disappear. They just grow roots in the dark. And that leads to the seventh and final sign, the one that ties all the others together in a way that might break your heart a little, helping everyone else while ignoring yourself. The person who is always checking in on their friends, always offering advice, always showing up for other people's emergencies. But when you ask them how they are doing, they deflect. They change the subject. They turn the conversation back to you. And we call these people selfless. We call them givers. We admire them for putting others first. But sometimes that giving is not generosity. It is escape. When you focus all your energy on fixing other people's problems, you do not have to face your own. When you are the strong one, the reliable one, the one everyone leans on, there is no room for your own pain, because you have built an identity around being the helper. And if you stop helping, who are you? If you stop being needed, do you even matter? That question terrifies people more than they would ever admit. And so they keep giving, keep showing up, keep pouring everything they have into others while their own foundation crumbles underneath them. And the scary part is that nobody notices, because the person who is always giving never looks like someone who is running on empty. They look like a hero. And heroes do not get to be tired. Heroes do not get to break down. At least, that is what they have been telling themselves for so long, that they actually believe it. So here we are. 7 behaviors, 7 masks, 7 ways that people hide in plain sight every single day. And the heaviest part of all this is that most of these people are not choosing to hide. They do not wake up in the morning and decide to fake it. These patterns build themselves over years, sometimes decades, brick by brick, until the wall felt more real than the person behind it. And maybe you recognized yourself in some of these. Maybe you recognized someone you love. Maybe a face popped into your mind while you were listening and your stomach dropped a little. And if that happened, I want you to know something important. Noticing it is the first step. It does not make you broken. It does not mean something is fundamentally wrong with you. It means you are paying attention. And paying attention is the beginning of everything. Please keep in mind that this is educational content based on general psychological concepts. If anything in this resonated deeply, or if you feel like you or someone you care about might be quietly struggling behind one of these masks, consider reaching out to a mental health professional. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is ask for help. And if you are the one behind the mask, please know that it is okay to put it down. You do not have to perform wellness to deserve support. You do not have to earn the right to struggle. You already have it. If this changed the way you see the people around you, or even the way you see yourself, leave a comment and tell us which sign hit the hardest. And if you are not already part of this community, hit subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next. We will see you in the next one.